So, traveling to a foreign country has a lot of ups, but no one really likes to talk about the downs associated with them. And as a Marine in the Marine Corps, I was given the opportunity to move halfway across the world to Japan, and I had at it. So, this is my story about how I PCSed over to Japan. Now, a PCS is a permanent change of station, and it occurs once every like 2 to 4 years for the most part for most people. Um, so just to rewind, I was deployed earlier in the year off in between Spain and Italy, and one day my monitor emails me, and the monitor is basically the person that's in charge of your fate in the military. So um, there's probably like I don't know how many monitors there are, but each community has their own set of monitors. And being an Osprey pilot, I'm under the rotary wing community's monitor. So generally speaking, they're very overworked and tasked people. Their job is manpower management for the Marine Corps, and some people don't have good relationships with their monitors because they put them in places where they don't want to go to. And also, your monitor deals with things like promotions, obviously PCSs like every 2 to 4 years for people, retirements, EASs, things like that. And so they got a lot of things on their plate, and they're just trying to manage the manpower of the Marine Corps. So oftentimes what will happen is they give you a long list of billets or job assignments that the Marine Corps needs you to go to. And I remember most of them were not places that I wanted to go. Like there were like non-flying billets for most of them. And so obviously I wanted to keep flying, so I put like all the flying billets at the top of my list. And probably like a month later, he gets back to me, and the list shrunk because he gave the jobs to other people. But there was one flying one still on my list, which was to PCS over to Okinawa, Japan. And out of the other choices that were offered to me, that was like a no-brainer to me. So I took the orders to Japan, and I remember the day that we got like the official email, like when the order is actually posted. I forwarded it to my wife, and it was like, "Whoa, this is really happening." Of course, she was all been on board and knew what my plans were, and we were. This is a big deal, so you want to talk it over with your family before you actually tell someone that you're willing to move halfway across the world. I definitely want to give the courtesy to that person. Um, but once we figured out that we were going to Japan, there's like a whole bunch of checklists that you have to go through. And the most basic one is your checkout checklist, which you have to do at the squadron. So eventually I get back to North Carolina, and the checkout sheet has things like going to medical and dental to pick up your records. Obviously, you got to go through the aviation side, the operation side, so you can pick up all your flight jackets, your NATOPS jacket, uh, flight logbooks, things like that. You got to check out the urinalysis people so that they're not hitting you on the drug tests randomly. Um, Things like distro lists with the S6 or the comm department, getting you off of the admin side so that you're no longer in the line of accounting for traveling and things like that. And then some things that everyone probably things like the things that you see in the movie that GI Joe or soldiers or Marines have, like their assault packs, their helmets, all their gear and everything. We get issued all that. We may not use it, especially like in the aviation side, but I have like 2 really large bags filled with military gear that I have to give back, and obviously I'm gonna have to pick it back up again when I PCS to Japan because they're like assigned to the locations where you have them. So after I did all that checkout stuff, turned in my rifle cards and things like that, I had to set up um, the movement of my household goods and things like that. So that process goes through a agency, I guess it's called DMO. What they do is they're going to, for an OCONUS or out of continental United States move, they're going to give you 3 different options or services for you to get your stuff where it needs to go. One of them is non-temp storage, the other is household goods, and the other is express. And so all of them have 3 different moving companies that come on 3 different days, and they all do slightly different things. Non-temp storage is where you're going to want to put really large furnitures or niche items that you are expecting to not use OCONUS. So I used non-temp storage for things like my really large living room table and the associated seating that went with that. I used it for a spare bedroom, so we had like a queen bed with some furniture, because I didn't know how large the sizes of the homes were going to be. I heard they were like really small, so I didn't want to like risk bringing large items essentially. Well, actually, we did bring a queen size bed, but like the squat rack, I had a squat rack. I didn't want to bring a squat rack, so I put that in non-temp storage, and just things like that. Then the other one, the other 2 is a household goods and express. So express is the stuff that you're going to want right when you get there, or as soon as possible when you get there. They ship that one on an airplane, so it's going to get there pretty soon after the movers come pick it up. And it's supposed to be like your essential stuff, but you're weight limited significantly. You can only bring like 1,500 pounds or 1,600 pounds or something like that. So for that, you're going to want to bring your bed and your crib if you have one, which I do because I have a baby, and that's literally the only furniture you're allowed to bring. Everything else has to go in the household goods. So the only furniture was bed and crib, and then we brought like kitchen stuff and bathroom stuff and some linens, and that was kind of it. It was just the bare essentials of what we would need shortly after moving to another country. And then I brought all my extra military gear too. And then household goods is like everything else. So you get a really large weight allotment for that. So like many thousands of pounds. I only used 2,400 pounds, but some people use like I think like 12,000 pounds that are potentially offered to them. And for that, we put all the rest of our furniture, our TV, things like that into it. So the other thing about PCSing to Okinawa is I had the ability to store my vehicles. I chose not to because I thought the lack of, well, for one, I don't want them just simply depreciating and losing value and not being used in storage for the minimum of the 3 years while I'm going to be abroad. But the other is that I thought of the opportunity cost of not having that money tied up in a vehicle doing nothing, but rather in some other investment vessel like the S&P 500 in some type of index fund or something like that. So I didn't really want to sell them because we bought one of them brand new and one with only 5,000 miles on it, and I took pretty good care of them. So I was kind of sad. I didn't want to see them go, and they did well by us. But I got them both for about 20 grand a piece, and on average between the 2 of them, we had them for about 6 years, and we sold them for about 10,000, which, if you do the math, it's around like $2,000-ish a year that we lost. But I also did the math, like if we leased the vehicles, and for $20,000 vehicles, you're probably looking at like, I don't know, a $2,000 or $3,000 down for a 36-month contract, which would have to be repeated a second time since we had them for more than 36 months. So that's like $5 grand down the drain right there. And then you're probably looking at like $250 a month, which comes out to around $3,000 a year. So in all, when you actually compare the difference between the 2 vehicle options, whether we leased it or sold it too prematurely, we actually came out ahead about $10,000 per vehicle compared to like a leasing contract. So it was actually better buying them 6 years ago and taking care of them the way we did. The other thing was our house. So that one I kind of had no choice. Well, I did have a choice. I could have rented out, but I also did the opportunity cost analysis on that too. I could have rented it out for $1,100 a month, but after insurance and expenses and vacancy cost, because who knows if it's always going to be vacant, the math made way more sense to actually put the proceeds of the sale of the home into the S&P 500 and make money off of that also. So we decided to do that, and we came out pretty well ahead with the house. We bought it for 140, and we sold it for 170. So I can't complain too much with that. So another thing you have to do when you're going OCONUS is you need to arrange your last day and first day at your present command and next command, respectively. Also, with that, you also have to arrange for your airline tickets for you and your family. So I knew I wanted to see my family and friends in Florida before going to Japan. Plus, in the military, it's really hard to get leave, especially for long periods of time. So for me to get like a 30-day grouping of leave, I'm going to have to do it in between my PCS. And that's called leave in conjunction with PCS, or in lieu of PCS. And it's something that a lot of people do because it's a great opportunity to take all the leave that you're given. And we're given a lot. We're given 2.5 days a month in the military. However, there's caveats to that. If you have leave that takes you through a weekend, those weekend days count too. So 30 days a year is what it comes out to. May seem like a lot, but it's probably about average when you count, like, hey, if you take Christmas leave, you're probably losing like 2 weekends worth of leave, which is 4 days, kind of wasted. Most people would be like, why do you have to take leave on a weekend? Well, in the military you do. At least in the Marine Corps you do. But I knew I wanted to see my family and friends in Florida, so when we got our ticket, the military makes you buy a ticket out of your duty station's local airport to your next PCS station, which meant that was Jacksonville, North Carolina. But they let you change it. But they also let you change it for a $40 fee. So we had to book it out of Jacksonville, which is kind of dumb. And then I wanted to change the ticket for my daughter, my wife, and I. And I did that, and it cost me $120, but at least I could leave out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida now, which is where I wanted to go. It's where my family lives. So we go to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and it's great because I get to see my family and my friends down there, like all my high school friends and college friends that I haven't seen in forever, catch up with a lot of people, and we also planned a trip to Costa Rica while we were down there. And the last time I went to Costa Rica was like 2007, when I was 19 years old. And I was way overdue on going to Costa Rica because I am half Costa Rican, and like most of my family lives in Costa Rica. And I'm no stranger to Costa Rica. I've probably been there like 7 times, and if you haven't gone, I recommend you to go. It's a beautiful country. There's a reason why like every Fortune 500 company that wants to send like their headquarters for like a Central or South American branch uses Costa Rica. It's a very politically stable country, and it's beautiful. There's very little crime and awesome tourism, and these Fortune 500 companies could use like all these other countries nearby that they could probably get cheaper labor from, but their level of safety and political stability is not at the level that Costa Rica's is. So Costa Rica meets like this really happy medium that lots of American businesses like to expand globally, or at least through Central and South America through. There's my plug for Costa Rica. You should go check it out if you haven't. It's a great place. But we finally go to Costa Rica, and it was my wife's and my daughter's first time. She became a world traveler at the age of like 4 or 5 months. Good for her. But we did some pretty cool things there. My parents have a house there. It's basically like a 5-story fortress that oversees one of the cities in the country, and it's beautiful. That's where we stayed at. And we also went to the beaches there. We met lots of family. We hosted some awesome parties for our family to come over and see us. And at one of those parties, my cousin asks me if I want to climb the Chiripo, which is the highest mountain in Central America, and it happens to be in Costa Rica. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Probably really stupidly, I said yes, but I kind of didn't expect him to follow through with it. But the next day, he's like, hey, so like if we're going to do this, this is the day we have to do it, because we can't do this or this on this day. And oh, and by the way, there's no lodging available. We're going to have to do it straight. So some background on the Cherry-Po. If you want to go to the Cherry-Po, what happens is there's a lodge 2/3 of the way there, and most people get to 2/3 of the way there on day one. And then on day two, they go to the summit and then back to the lodge. So that's like another 2/3 of travel. And then on day three, they do the final 2/3 back, and it's usually a 3-day excursion. But we didn't have the ability to go lodge because all the booking was booked. So we decided that we were going to leave like at 9 o'clock at night and then go with flashlights and then make it there by morning to watch the sunrise and then come back, and that was going to be the way we hiked the Cherry-Po. And we went ahead and executed that, and we actually did it in less than 24 hours. So we did it in about like 20 hours, which is quite amazing, and I could talk about that in a different video later on. But it was very beautiful, cool experience, and that was like 2 days before we were about to leave back to the States, or like 1 day before. And as you can imagine, I was extremely sore. Yeah, but it was great. And we went back to Florida, and in Florida, we got to see more family and friends, just hang out more, until it brought us to our final days in our motherland. So the night before I knew I was leaving, we needed to pack up the SUV that my parents have, because I was like, I'm actually quite uncertain whether or not we could fit all the stuff in there. And it's not like I have a lot of stuff, it's not like my wife has a lot of stuff, but it's our 6-month-old daughter that has a lot of crap that we need to carry around for her, like her pack and play where she sleeps in, and car seats, and the base, and all her diaper crap. So we packed that all up the night before we went to bed, and we woke up, and it was kind of like our final morning in the United States, and the rest is kind of history. So I'll give you another video of what it's been like since we've hit Japanese soil. So until next time.